This is vegan style.
What's up, plant-loving people? So I'm taking a walk to go eat my noon lunch in Prospect Park. It's a beautiful day in Brooklyn, and I thought it was time to get sensitive today. I think I need to tell you folks why I became vegan. I was working on my book this morning, which is called Plantriotic, a guide to why adopting a plant-based diet is the greatest thing you can do for your country and the planet. It will hit the shelves, let's say, rough estimate, summer of 2016. And so I was working on the segment where I just go through my whole journey, my whole story from being a vegetarian when I was in 8th grade at 14 years old, all the way up to now. And the story all starts on Halloween night when I was 14 years old in the 8th grade, so that was like 7 years ago. It was like midnight. I was sitting on my kitchen counter with my best friend, and we were about to microwave some beef burritos just after coming home from a party or something. And literally, since I can remember, since I could think, eating meat was a sensitive subject for me. I was always an animal lover. I was the kid who would cry in elementary school when someone squashed a bug. And every time I ordered meat at a restaurant, wherever, I felt terrible about it, and it was a struggle. Do I continue doing this? It's how I was raised. I thought it was healthy, but I just felt so bad about it, and I continued to do it, you know, up until this one random moment where it was totally unexpected. I was microwaving this beef burrito, and I just said, I can stop this. This vegetarian thing is not an exclusive club. Like, I can actually do this. I threw away the beef burrito, and from that day on, for 5 years, I was vegetarian. I was a junk food vegetarian. So it was not about nutrition. I was not vegan. I continued to eat dairy and eggs and butter and other animal products, just no meat, flesh, or fish or anything like that. And it was an ethical choice. I felt bad about taking the life of an animal and eating its flesh. So I was a happy junk food vegetarian, continued with the cheese and, you know, lots of grilled cheese, lots of egg sandwiches. It was not healthy at all. Lots of fried food, oil, French fries, sodas. It wasn't until I graduated high school, still a vegetarian, and I rode my bicycle across America on my gap year in between high school and college. And this trip changed my life. It was one of the greatest things I've ever done for myself. I went along with my brother and my best friend Jason, and my brother and I did the entire trip vegetarian, totally. And going into the middle of rural, conservative, Bible Belt Kentucky, going into a diner, saying, hey, I'm a vegetarian, what are your options, to a waitress, we literally had people just look at us, what the hell's a vegetarian? Had no idea what we were talking about. But we did it the whole way. We would wake up every morning, get about 3 egg omelet at a diner, French toast, pancakes. I mean, we were biking 85 miles a day with 50 pounds on our bikes. We were burning insane calories and eating insane amount of junk food. Tons of milkshakes along the way, sodas, eggs, grilled cheese. It was crazy. But I wasn't doing it for the nutrition. I wasn't doing it for my health. I was doing it because I did not want to eat animals, and that was important to me. And growing up in LA, if I had the option to go get an organic vegan salad at a restaurant, I could do so. There's tons of options in LA. I grew up going to the farmer's market. I had easy access to healthy food if I really wanted it. Biking across America, the place where our food is supposed to be grown, all I saw were farms all day, and no one had access to healthy food. People were eating, the local people were eating at gas stations and diners all day, every day, growing corn and soybean to feed cattle, not to feed people. And I was like, holy crap, everyone is fat, sick, and most people are depressed that I met. Truly, it was really disturbing. When I came home from that trip, I was reflecting on everything I had learned, and about 2 weeks later, I left for my next part of my gap year, was off to Borneo, Indonesia, to work and volunteer on an orangutan wildlife sanctuary. And while I was in Borneo, my diet consisted of white rice, fruits, and vegetables, 3 meals a day, every day. And I was working in a rural jungle village, and in this village there were no incidences of heart disease, no cancer, and I was working with up to 3 generations of the same family, meaning I would be working with a grandparent, a parent, and a kid, all climbing the same trees, running around in the 100-degree humidity, working with orangutans, which is the most physical, vigorous work I've ever done. And there were these dudes and women into their 80s and 90s doing the same work, no problem. And they were lean and they were fit, and everyone was happy. The average income was about $70 a month. These people were living off of nothing. They had longevity, they had happiness, and it was just a stark contrast between what I had observed riding across America, one of the richest countries in the world, where people are supposed to have opportunity, but we're dug in a hole of depression and sickness. And here in Borneo, where they essentially have nothing, they were doing great. And I said, holy crap, I need to figure out what the root of this problem is. How are these lifestyles so different? Now, they were by no means vegan. There was no dairy pretty much in my entire community. There's no cows, but every family owned a few chickens, and about probably once a week or less for some of the older people, the kids were eating a lot more meat. Each family would take a chicken that was just roaming around the village. They would kill it, prepare it that night, and eat it as a family that dinner. Keep in mind, I was still a vegetarian at this point, and I was a vegetarian because growing up in LA, where there were no farms in my immediate area, I felt bad about going to a grocery store, eating some meat that someone who I don't know how the animal was treated, it was killed, and then eating it myself. It felt wrong. I said if I were ever to eat meat again, I would have to kill the animal. I would have to feel the pain that I took from it, and so on. And finally, in Borneo, I had the opportunity to do this. After about a month of being there, I said to my house parent, Paxia, I said, let's do this. I want to feel what it's like to kill a chicken and eat it myself. And so together, we grabbed a chicken in the backyard, and I put the bird in between my legs, grabbed its head to expose its neck, took a sharp knife, slit its throat, drained the blood into a bucket to cook with, let the bird sit down on the ground for about 5 minutes, taking its last pants while I watch it die, and then I soaked it in a tub of warm water, pulled out all the feathers, broke and opened up its rib cage, took out the heart and the lungs and the guts and the intestines and the stomach, cleaned it out. Maggots were flying everywhere over my head. I thought I was going to barf, it smelled so bad. And then I cut up the chicken to the parts that humans like to eat, the breast, the wings, the legs. Then I sauteed it in some oil and some sauces and spices. And for the first time in 5 years, I took a bite of a chicken. And I can say it by no means tasted good. I wasn't like, oh, finally, after 5 years, I get my meat. I mean, it tasted disturbing. The texture of flesh, the chewiness, is nothing that you can really mimic in the vegan diet, and it's not appetizing after you've detoxed from it for so many years. But I ate it, and I got a massive stomach ache, diarrhea for about 2 days. And this is the most organic free-range chicken you can possibly get, eating grasses and bugs out in the Borneo jungle. So I reflected on it. I took that whole week. I said, how do I feel about that? I felt terrible about taking the chicken's life. It made me uncomfortable. My fingers smelled bad for about 24 hours, and it just felt unnatural. Like, why did I need to kill this being that was walking around living its life and then eat it to get a stomach ache and to not feel good? It just doesn't make sense. And for the remainder of my time in Borneo, which was about 4 or 5 weeks, I continued to experiment with, they would kill a wild boar and freeze it, and I tried that, and chicken, that's about it. And some fish. And every time I did it, I just felt crummy. Was like, why am I continuing to experiment with this thing? I know it's not for me. So when I was in Borneo, I felt amazing. I couldn't tell, is it because I'm eating a small amount of animal flesh for the first time, or is it because I'm not eating any dairy, I'm not eating any processed sugar, I'm eating real whole foods, lots of rice, lots of fruits, lots of veggies, and meat about once a week. And so when I came home from Borneo, I began to really delve into the research and say, all right, maybe the huge difference between the standard American lifestyle and the way of life of these indigenous people in Borneo, maybe it's the food. So I began to read. I read studies from doctors, nutritionists, biochemists, professors, athletes. I read the perspectives from people who advocate low carb, high protein, high animal food diets. I read the perspectives of the vegans, the high carb, high sugar, high fruit, low protein, low fat diets. And when you get into medical research, you can find as many studies that prove one thing wrong and one thing right as you want. I could show you tons of studies on how eating fried steaks and cheese steaks all day will lower your incidence of heart disease, and I can also provide you with a million studies that show that a plant-based vegan diet is the greatest protection against cancer and heart disease. So ultimately, what you have to do when you're delving into this research is listen to the information, test it yourself, and listen to your body, which I began to do. I found a local butcher shop in LA that sourced all of their meat within a 50-mile radius of the shop. Tried eating that for about 2 weeks, recorded how I felt, and then I went on a vegan diet for 2 weeks, recorded how I felt. I did low carb, I did high fat, I tried all these different things, and every single time it pointed in the exact same direction, that upon eating animal products, I feel sluggish, lethargic, my stomach hurts, and I don't recover close to as quickly from a run or an exercise, versus on the vegan diet where I'm eating as much food as I want, lots of cooked rice, legumes, lots of fruit. I feel full of energy the entire time. My recovery is never more than 10 hours. I feel vibrant, my sleep's amazing, my skin is glowing, and it got to be so simple. And then once I figured out, okay, my body works best on a vegan diet, then I began to delve into the environmental research of, is this sustainable? And of course, what do I find out? That the most significant thing you personally can do to reduce your carbon footprint is to stop eating animal products. It's to stop eating flesh, stop eating milk, butter, cheese, yogurt. That is the #1 cause of greenhouse gas emissions on the planet. And by abstaining from animal products, you literally reduce your carbon footprint more than anything you can possibly do. There's a statistic that a person driving a Hummer on a vegan diet has less of a carbon footprint than someone who drives a Prius and eats animal products. Okay? I mean, changing your light bulbs and driving an electric car and using a reusable water bottle is literally peanuts when it comes to trying to resolve the environmental crisis in our world, where changing your diet literally could change everything. So after that, about a month of research, I finally proclaimed that I was a vegan, and I was proud of it, and I began to embark on this journey, and it has been the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. I have gained 30 pounds of muscle mass. I stay lean year-round. I know that I'm being good to the planet. I know that I am not harming animals. I'm educating others and making their lifestyles happier, getting people healthy. My whole entire family are vegan about 6 days of the week, and they're working on becoming full vegans. It's changed their life. I've changed friends' lives. I've started my website. I'm educating people on YouTube. I've become a yoga teacher because I went vegan. That is literally why. It has changed my life for the better. Initially, the reason I became vegetarian, ethical. The reason I became vegan, purely health. And now the reason that I am vegan is because it is wrong, it is immoral, it is inhumane to abuse and slaughter and enslave animals for human consumption, flat out, no arguments. We know now that eating animal products is not good for the human body, thus by choosing to do so when we don't need to, it's actually hurting us. It is even more of an immoral act. If we found out that meat and fat were the healthiest things to eat, then maybe we could justify all the environmental and ethical atrocities of eating animals, but we know it's terrible for the human body, it's terrible for the environment, it's inhumane, it's a form of enslavement, and it shouldn't be done. And at the same time, eating a vegan diet is not depriving yourself. I eat a larger quantity and more calories of food every single day on the vegan diet than I ever did while eating animal products. I always had to, you eat half the cheeseburger because you don't want to get fat. You eat half of the French fries. It's not like that on the vegan diet. You literally clean your plate. I do not throw food away. I cannot tell you a time where I ate a smaller portion than was on my plate on the vegan diet and threw it away. It doesn't happen because vegan food is always amazing and you can eat as much as you want, stay lean, build muscle, get healthy. It is the best of all worlds. Go vegan, carb the fuck up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, check out my website, plantriotic.com, inspire your friends, spread the word. This is the greatest thing that we can possibly do for our country and planet. Become a plantriot, a patriotic, plant-based eater. The best thing you can do for the planet, for your country, for your family, for yourself, and for all beings on the planet is to adopt a whole food, plant-based diet.
This is vegan style.